Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Married at First Sight, Season 11, Episode 9. Opening up is hard to do. And before we get started, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, before I forget, please like, share, and comment. Okay, so we're starting off with Karen and Miles. Miles wants to do something really special for Karen, and so he invites his friend over, who is a chef, to teach him how to cook a meal and to surprise Karen. So while they're doing this, Karen comes in and she is surprised at, to see Miles cooking for her. And so that was a cute little scene, and that was basically it. He cooked a meal for her, or he tried to cook a meal for her. Obviously, the chef did most of it. And it was nice. It was cute. And the food looked absolutely delicious. I wanted to jump into my TV and sit at that table and eat all of that. It looked really, really good. I think it was pasta, crab, and mussels, I think. Oh, it looked so delicious. So then they have an assignment where they have to have a discussion about love. This is coming from the experts. They gave everybody a card and some instructions or something about, have a discussion with your spouse about love and falling in love and all of that stuff. And so Miles is definitely a pleaser. And they're sitting in bed together, him and Karen, and this is what happens. She asked him to talk about, she wanted to know more about him. And so I think she asked him about his childhood. And he says to her that his parents broke up when he was pretty young. I think he said 9 years old. His parents divorced, and it was really hard for his mom. And it was just as equally hard for his dad. And so from then on, he was basically caught between two households. And it seemed like, for whatever reason, he felt this responsibility, I guess, to maybe make his parents happy, or to be the good little boy, because he didn't want to upset anyone, and he wanted everyone to be happy. And so I guess he always had to put up this front of not even putting up a front, but just basically being a good boy, a good son, being there for both of his parents. Kind of like, I want to say, maybe I'm putting a lot into it. He didn't say all of this, but I'm just trying to make a connection between why he is the way he is now, and him explaining that when his parents broke up, and him going back and forth between his mom and his dad. And then he said at some point his dad, when he was older, I think he said when he was college age, his dad finally told him that he didn't need to do that anymore. He didn't need to carry that burden of constantly looking out for his parents. And I kind of want to say that maybe when he saw his mom sad, maybe when he saw his dad sad, he felt like it was his responsibility to make her feel better. And I think maybe that's where it comes from, where now in his relationships, the first thing he runs to, the first thing he knows how to do is just to try to make everybody happy, to make his woman happy, and to please them, and to do the things that he thinks he needs to do to put a smile on their face. And maybe he feels like, well, if I can make you happy, you'll like me. And maybe as a little boy, he felt like if he can make his parents happy, that they would like him more, they would like him better. You know how children try to rationalize the adult things that are going on in front of them. I don't know, but Karen was saying that she didn't want him to have that burden in their marriage. She didn't want him to constantly always put her first, to the point where he forgets about himself and making sure that he's good and that his needs are being met, because he's so eager to please her that, she said she made a really good point. She's such an intelligent woman. She made a really good point. She says, I don't want you to constantly run around trying to make me happy, because you're going to run out of gas. Eventually you're going to get tired of doing that. And so when you're trying so hard in the beginning, eventually you're going to fizzle out. And I'm thinking maybe that's why he's had so many relationships. He's had 10 monogamous, he says, relationships, serious monogamous relationships, because maybe at some point he kind of like ran out of fuel and the relationship was over because he wasn't there to please, or he was just so exhausted and spent that he had nothing left to give, and the relationship was over. And it would end quickly because he was trying so hard in the beginning to make him happy that 6 months down the line, he's over it. He's tired. So maybe she made a really good point when she said that, you need to kind of slow it down, and don't forget to think about yourself and to let me know what you need. It can't just be the Karen show all the time for you. And she also said that when he's constantly trying to please her, she doesn't, in the beginning, when they don't really even know each other, he doesn't really know that much about her, but he's always, he's always saying things and doing things. I just want to make you happy. I just want to make you happy. I just want to make sure you're good. You're good. Are you okay? Is everything okay? She's like, I want you to do this because you're really concerned about Karen, and not because this is just your MO with everybody. You get with the woman and all, you're constantly, oh, are you good? Are you good? Are you good? Like, this is just how you are? Or are you really doing this because you're really concerned about me? She wants it to be genuine. And he took it the wrong way. He said that it was more like, what did he say? He said, so you don't want me to be, an overachiever? Or he took it he really missed the point when she was trying to say, when you're doing things for me to make me happy, I want to make sure that you're really doing things for Karen, not just because this is just what you do for everybody. Then they go grocery shopping, and they have a discussion about masculinity. Now, in her confessional, she talks again about how she wants a more masculine man, and he's I guess she kind of sees him as being not that masculine because he's so into his feelings and talking about feelings, and he wears his feelings on his sleeve, and his emotions, and she's not used to that. And so in her confessional, she says that she's used to more masculine men. And my question to her, and this was also Miles's question to her in the grocery store, was, well, can a person be both? Can a person be emotional? Can a person be expressive about how they feel and be masculine at the same time? And I think Karen said, yeah, that's possible. And I'm like, girl, yeah, it is very possible, because this is exactly what he is. I don't see him as not being masculine. I don't see that at all. I don't know if, anyways, I can't remember their names. I'm even going to compare them to them. But I don't see Miles as someone who is not masculine. He fixed her car, for God's sake. He could have just taken it to a mechanic or something, but he fixed it. And that's a masculine thing to do. I'm not running around fixing cars. Now, this whole thing about what's masculine and what's not masculine and what's feminine and all, that's a very sensitive area, because you're like stereotyping men and women, and you're assigning gender roles to men and women, when we can all be a little bit of everything. There's probably are a whole bunch of women who can fix a car, who love to fix cars, who don't want to talk about their emotions all day long. And there's probably men out there who don't want to fix a car, who don't want to watch sports, and all they want to do is just talk about emotion. So the thing about what's masculine, I don't know if she's trying to equate, like a masculine man as a man who doesn't talk about his emotions. I wonder if that's what she's trying to say, because I don't see how talking about your emotions emasculates you, takes away your masculinity. I thought women wanted men to be more expressive about how they felt. So you're not running around always asking them, well, how do you feel? And what are you thinking? How are you feeling? And how did this make you feel? Because we're always wanting to know as women. I don't want to generalize, but here I am stereotyping. But I thought women wanted men to be more expressive. And so you have a man who is willing to talk more about his feelings, which I think she's fine with that. But I think maybe what her issue is, the constant trying to please, maybe that's what kind of bothers her. So after that, they come home and they're unloading the groceries, and they're in the kitchen talking, and he brings up the discussion of intimacy. And basically he wanted to know, he was asking her, when do you think you'll be ready to be intimate, or what can help you want to be intimate, or something like that. And she basically said that, basically he wants to know, when are we going to get it on? What is it going to take for you to feel comfortable to get there? That's how I took it. I could be wrong. I don't want to make him look like a horrible guy, but that's kind of like, he was kind of like hemming and hawing and hinting at, and it kind of told me that he's wanting to know. Oh, he asked her, he's like, how do you feel about intimacy? Do you like sex? Do you enjoy sex? Do you like kissing? Do you like hugging? What are your turn-offs and your turn-ons? And she was like, well, we're not really at that stage in our relationship where I would talk about that. And she was like, of course I'm a woman, I have needs, yes, whatever, but we're not at that stage where I will go into more in-depth go into a more in-depth conversation with you at the level that we're on. And he's kind of like, well, what is it going to take to get you there? And she was like, well, it needs to happen naturally. It needs to happen naturally. There's no formula. There's no schedule. It's not like, and she looks at her imaginary watch. Like, you're not going to look at your watch and be like, oh, okay, we're going to be intimate at, 9:30, Tuesday or whatever. It's not something that you exactly plan and, put on your calendar. Well, then Miles proceeds to get up, go to the calendar that they have on the refrigerator, and he was being jokey, but I'm thinking that there was a little bit of seriousness in it. And he pencils in on the calendar, have sex with my wife. And the look on her face, I could tell that she did not like that at all. And she was like, what you need to put on there is, Miles, and she used a term of someone who pleasures themselves, a man who pleasures themselves. And she's like, that's what Miles would be doing on that day. And I was just like, ooh, this just really took a really bad turn. Now, my thing is this, Miles, are you claim to be sensitive and you're going to be very aware of what your woman wants, what your woman is thinking, what your woman needs. Couldn't you tell that she did not want to go down that road? And still, not only did you kind of push her down that road, but you kind of you got up and you put something on the calendar that you couldn't tell was going to make her completely uncomfortable. Their relationship is, to me, it's like on a very... They were making progress. But for him to show how he's getting impatient, I want to say. I'm going to call a thing. He shows that he's getting impatient with waiting around for her to want to have sex. And for him to bring it up like that, and to make it so obvious that he's getting impatient, it's like now you're taking 10 steps back with her. Y'all were doing well. She was becoming, she's a great listener when they're talking, and he's talking about his childhood and the divorce of his parents. She's listening, she's paying attention, and she's receptive and she's open, and she even acknowledges where she's lacking with him and where she needs to improve. So you have a really good woman who's trying so hard and doing all the right things, and now you kind of ruin it all. You took the air right out of the balloon when you're kind of like, well, I'm gonna pencil it in on the calendar when we're gonna have sex. And I know he was trying to be funny, but it was kind of like he knew he was making a wrong turn, and then he was probably just like, you know what, F it, now I'm at the point of no return, so let me just make a real jackass out of myself. And it went bad. I was like, Miles, y'all were making progress. Y'all shared a kiss twice, intimately, were with no cameras, I'm assuming, and also in front of your friends when you had the homecoming part or the house party, whatever it was, housewarming party. And you're making progress. She's opening up, and now you just knocked everything down with a big old wrecking ball with your need to have your impatience with her. You're being... it was just bad. It was just really bad. I was so upset with him because it took a long time, for her to get to where she's at now with him, when she was having major doubts about him from day one. And now here you are, Miles, you big dummy, making her feel completely uncomfortable. Couldn't he tell when he was asking her, so, do you enjoy sex? Do you enjoy being intimate? And she was kind of like... not saying much about it. Like, she was kind of closing down. She was like shutting down. Couldn't he tell that this is not... Anyways, he messed it up for himself. Now, moving on to Christina and Henry. So, he's home. Was he cooking for her? I think he was making dinner or something. So she comes home, and I thought that maybe when she walked through the door, wherever she was at, with her friends, she comes home, and I thought maybe they would have hugged and kissed, but that didn't happen. So they sit down on the couch and they're talking, and she basically reveals to him that, maybe the reason why her attitude has been kind of sour was because she wasn't taking her ADD medication. And so she reveals to him that she has ADD, and she has medication for it, and she hasn't been taking it because her mom, well, she thought she could deal with it on her own. And her mom kind of encourages her to not take her medicine because her mom doesn't believe in that stuff, taking medication, I guess. And so she thought she could probably deal with it on her own, but realizing she couldn't, and so now she needs to get back on her medication. And so, she revealed something really intimate and really vulnerable about herself to him, and they shared that moment together. And he didn't judge her. He was very supportive, encouraging. He says it wasn't a big deal to him. It wasn't an issue, not a big deal, but it wasn't like, he didn't see her any differently. It didn't make any difference to him, and that, he just wants her to do whatever she needs to do to get better, to be at her best. And so they shared that beautiful moment together, and it was really good to see to see Henry coming out of his shell and talking more and being that supportive husband that he needed to be with her. So that was a really good scene, and it definitely seems like it brought them closer. Now 99.99999% of me totally believed that whole scene was genuine, that she was coming from a really from a genuine place. She wanted to tell her husband what was going on with her so that he could kind of be aware of why she was the way she was and what she needs to do to get better. But that 0.0001% of me was kind of like, well, now that his friend revealed to her that that how Henry was really there for her when her sister died, I was wondering if she was kind of using this ADD thing to well, maybe if I tell him that there's something like I have something going on with me, it will make him want to be closer to me. He will want to be she's so desperate for him to show some type of emotion or to show some type of connection with her, that this is the reason why she revealed it, was to use it to kind of bring him closer to her. Like I said, 99.99999% of me thinks that it was genuine, but tiny, the size of a grain of sand makes me think that maybe, she was being a little bit manipulative. Anyway, so they have a discussion about love, and she says that she realizes why she was matched with him. And she talks about, because I think he asked her, the question was, have you ever been in love? And she said that she was, and it was with her ex. And she said that she gives this really cute story about how they were really broke, had no money at all, and all they had was a can of soup, and they took the can of soup to the French Quarter, and she said it was the best can of soup ever, because even though they were struggling, because they were together, I guess, who she was with, it made the struggle easier to bear. And it was just a really wonderful moment that they shared together. But then she realized the relationship wasn't going to work out because they argued a lot. And then she said that she came to a realization that the common denominator in all of her relationships was basically that there was a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing, and it was so much that she thought that was normal for people to argue and fight and bicker. And then, now that she's with Henry, she kind of sees that that's not normal to live like that, Henry, he's not a person who wants to argue. He's someone that wants to find a solution, and he stays calm. And she says that he calms her down, and he, balances her out, as far as she's kind of the hot-tempered one and he's a cool cucumber, and it balances it out. And she says he's making her realize that relationships don't have to be that way. They don't have to be combative. And she really likes that about him, that he brings that out in her. And so that was really nice. So then they go golfing, and she liked that. He teaches her how to golf. And of course, it's the typical man behind the woman, putting his arms around her to teach her how to swing the golf club. So that brought them physically closer. And it also did bring them closer, period, because of the fact that she liked how he took charge. He was teaching her something. It was something that he wanted to do, and he was teaching her how to do it. And she liked that he took charge and that he showed confidence. And it's the same thing when they went salsa dancing, which is something that she liked to do. So when they went salsa dancing, they were learning the dance steps and everything, the choreography. And at first it was kind of shaky, but eventually he got more comfortable, he got more confident, and he was the lead. And she liked the fact that the salsa dancing gave him an opportunity to kind of take control, metaphorically, physically, whatever, however you want to look at it. And she enjoyed that. And so she was seeing like a whole new side. We all were seeing a whole new side of Henry, and we like this Henry. He was very, very talkative. Now, when they went golfing, after they did the whole golfing thing and they were sitting down at the bench and they were having a drink and talking, he was very talkative and he was making eye contact. And then when they were salsa dancing, he had a tendency to constantly look down, as we all would when we're learning a new dance step. You're always looking at your feet, and the salsa instructor kept on telling him, lift your head, the ground isn't going anywhere, it's still going to be there, just look at her, concentrate on her. And he did, and it was nice, and this is a really good episode for Henry and Christina. They made a lot of progress. Moving on to Amani and Woody. So they're getting a mani-pedi together, and Amani said that she liked that. She really enjoyed that she has a husband who enjoys that kind of stuff, and so they had fun doing the mani-pedi thing. And they have a discussion on love, and he said that he was falling for her. He says that he loves her. He has love for her. He is falling for this woman. He's really digging her. And she said that she likes him a lot, but she just doesn't know if, she's falling for him at the same rate that he's falling for her. So she's like, we're still working on that, but she does like him a lot. And so then, she was saying that it was, because of her past relationships, they're kind of like getting in the way of her really opening up to Woody, because she's afraid. She's afraid to be let down. So she has her heart guarded. And Woody basically was like, in his confessional, he was like, I need her to put that behind her. That's the past. I'm somebody different. I'm brand new. This is Woody. This is not any of those people that she was with in the past. So she really needs to open up and give me a chance. And we all agree with that. And then he makes dinner for her, and no, she made dinner for him. He came home and she had dinner ready on the table for her man, and he really liked that. And so I wanted to eat that too. It was salmon and pasta. That looked good too. So they're having and it was just a really nice, playful dinner, very relaxed, and making jokes, and it was nice. So then Amelia and Bennett. Hello, they consummated their marriage. So that was interesting. Bennett wasn't feeling well. I think he was kind of sick, or he was recovering from whatever was bothering him. And he said, one of them was saying how there was a time, she was comforting. It was Bennett. He was saying that, he was, I guess, feeling better, and there was a moment where she was comforting him and she was being very caring and loving, and one thing led to another, and so they've consummated their marriage. They go to the park, and she's got this whole thing planned for them where they were going to go slacklining. I never heard of this. It looked like tightrope walking, where you take something that looked like a tightrope, and you hook it up to two trees, and then you try to get on it and walk. So she was teaching him how to do that. So that was a cute little scene, and they were just really funny and interesting together. I like them together a lot. They had a discussion about what you would do for your partner, and it was like a really lighthearted discussion. And she was like, something about, would you give up the world for me? And he was like, no, I don't think I would do that. He was like, that's kind of silly. I wouldn't give up the world for you. Moving on to Olivia and Brett. So they're having a discussion about love, and Olivia is trying to have a very serious discussion about, how do you know when you're in love? What does love look like to you? What does love feel like to you, or whatever? And Brett is just constantly making jokes, and he's being really sarcastic, and it's kind of bothering her. And she doesn't like it, but she doesn't really tell him that she doesn't like it. She says it in her confessional. And then something about, they're having a discussion. I forgot what context it was in, but she was saying something about how she likes to concentrate on the little things, not really the big picture, but just the little things. Because if you concentrate on the little things, everything kind of falls into place. And he looks at her and he's like, you know what, that's basically against everything that I've ever been taught in my life, you know, to look at the little things versus on focusing on the bigger picture. So that was one thing. Then she has a walk with Amani. And as they're walking, they're talking about their husbands. And Amani, of course, is talking about how wonderful things are with Woody. And she says that she's becoming more and more and more attracted to Woody. She's getting those butterfly feelings whenever he's around. And so, you know, things are progressing really well. And Olivia was like, well, you know, she's like, well, I wish it could be like that with me and Brett. But she's not there yet. She doesn't have those feelings for Brett quite like that. And then, what else does she say? Oh, they're talking about, she tells Amani about the finances, and she's like, you know, and as far as finances go, we're kind of like on the separate pages with that. We're not on the same page with that. She was like, you know, whatever extra money he has, he wants to put it towards his house. I don't own my own house, so whatever extra money that I have, I want to go travel. And she talks again about how things are kind of like in a rut for them. You know, there's not much excitement going on. And she needs him to kind of step it up. And then they go on a swamp boat tour, which was good. This was a good scene for them because at the swamp boat tour, the tour guide was really cheesy. He was making all these alligator jokes and New Orleans. It was just bad. The jokes were bad. But anyways, so while they're sitting in the swamp boat, Brett actually puts his arm around Olivia. It was like the first time that I've ever seen him initiate any kind of contact with her. So that was nice. That was a good experience. You know, it was her idea to take him on the swamp boat tour because she's trying to show that she doesn't have to do expensive things all the time, you know, to have a good time. So this was something that was, you know, on the low end of expenses, and they had a good time. And so that ended well. So that was my little review of Married at First Sight. Thank you for joining me. Like, comment, and subscribe, I think I'm supposed to say. And we'll talk again later. Bye.